learn data and get insight out of it, right? Because data is useless, unless you actually analyze it, and then becomes information, and becomes you can become real insight, and then you can take action based on insight.
Our guest today is a chartered financial analyst, also known as a CFA charter holder, that has degrees from the University of Tennessee, the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, and has earned a professional certificate in data science from Harvard University. Previous to his entrepreneurial leap, he had 7 years of experience as a capital markets analyst at Wells Fargo. Welcome to the show, co-founder and CEO at Musaffa, Dilshod Jumaniyazov.
Thank you for the introduction.
Now, before we dive into your entrepreneurial story, share what inspired you to pursue a career in finance and technology.
Yes, of course. Since I was a child, as far as I remember, for some reason, I've always been to finance. I'm always intrigued by numbers. And the more I start getting into finance, the more actually I fell in love with it, because I think it's just it's just amazing field. So over time, my finance interest drove also to technology, because again, now at the age of technology, that's why we call it fintech, right? Financial technology, because now it became like literally like inseparable part of it, right? When you have finance, you cannot even imagine without the technology anymore. So for that reason, actually, I was in finance. If you my history, like first as you introduced, like I did graduate from University of Tennessee, Knoxville, in finance and accounting. And my first job, right, I called my first interview. I landed a really nice job that was equity research analyst, my first position.
Nice.
And then this is where I really got into equity, like analyzing 10K, 10Qs in Tennessee. It was an amazing experience. Then I realized, like, you know what? Thought about starting a company at the time. The reason is like because as a Muslim, those investments that I was investing, I wasn't really sure if it really aligned with my values.
Okay.
So that led me to say, okay, you know what? I think like I'm actually having this kind of internal struggles. Like I don't know if any company I invest, if really I support their what they do, like in terms of the vision and everything. So I started doing research, and then I said, well, you know what? If you want to start a company, like especially like the vision is so big, like a global platform, then you need to know technology, right? So that's when I shifted. I got a position with Wells Fargo Securities. I worked very close with the technology team, and that's where I learned actually how to launch like trading platforms, right? So that skill set. So I would say that technology was driven again as the need. Later on, it was actually I embraced it because I think it's amazing. Now, as you know, that as a fintech company right now, for example, Musaffa, we have offices maybe in 3 different countries right now, but we operate literally every single um, company in the world, and you don't have to go and open an office anymore, right? You can just run technology. That technology making it happen. So I think it's like it's amazing thing, like convergence of finance and technology, and so that's how I got into technology through finance, because again, it gave the scalability that everybody's trying to reach, right, in finance.
Nice.
So yeah.
Dilshod, how did earning your CFA charter shape your vision for an investment trading platform?
Well, that's interesting topic, because it would seem interesting because the reason I got my CFA and MBA was also launching Musaffa. So it was other way around. So I had this vision of building the company like back in like 10 years ago, 10 to 12 years ago, I started writing a business plan for Musaffa. But at the time, interestingly, I was that's before I joined Wells Fargo. This is when I realized I was equity research analyst, as I said. I started writing a business plan. Okay, I want to start a company. But then I realized something. Well, I need several things to do that. It didn't take me long to realize that I needed 3 critical, like you could just say things or assets. One was definitely education. So I need more education. I had a bachelor's degree, and that's what led me to CFA as well. And the second was I need experience. A lot of people talk about building something amazing, but few people do, because it takes a lot of discipline and a lot of learning. right? And then of course the capital. So three things were missing, important things, right? This is one of the things was education. So of course, like it wasn't the only reason, because when I was in University of Tennessee, I was also the co-founder and president of University of Tennessee Investment Group. And this is when we used to get together with the group of students and study for CFA at the time. But I didn't actually take the exam. I didn't at the time. But again, coming back, once I was working in Wells Fargo, so and I actually pursued my CFA. I was actually studying. It was one of the hardest thing I've ever done, to be honest, when it comes to education, because it's not just the study materials are hard, which it is, but it's more about the volume or scale of that was time consuming, and with being married, having a child, so and working full time, so it was a real challenge. But I made sure that I found time. So the next 3 years I studied really hard, and once I passed the exam, I said, well, you know what? Now I can go get an MBA. Interestingly, because there's a big overlap between MBA and CFA to some extent on the finance part of it, but
I've
there's
only heard nightmares about the CFA exam.
it is the hardest thing, I think, but it's again, it's challenging, and I love challenge, right? I think that's why I think it was worth it, especially right now we're building amazing like products actually at Musaffa, and the CFA has a lot to do with it, because I learned so much from there. We actually started implementing on the platform as well, right? All the knowledge that I gained from that, because what I love about the CFA itself, it's not more about the designation itself that gives you credibility, and it's more about like it opens your mindset, so like you can start building products, like, or you can move actually to financial engineering as well, not just an analyst. So I think
Okay.
it's just the scope is huge. I think there's the different 10 different topics, like start from accounting, ethics, go accounting, like you go like portfolio management all the way, and you do in the middle your equity, fixed income, derivatives. So it is a lot. It is a lot, but it's doable with a lot of discipline.
Musaffa is currently trusted by more than 3,100 users with a total portfolio of 75 million plus. Share more about the tools and features that you provide to get to that point.
Actually, it went to 87 million. So we got 3,300, more than 3,300 people. So what's happening is that imagine a lot of people, they invest in a lot of things. And again, they don't have to necessarily be Muslims, by the way. But because again, the values are shared along with the different cultures, different like religions, the values are very, very similar. So what I mean, like, of course, as a value-based investments, you don't want to be investing, for example, alcohol or tobacco or weapons, stuff like that. So there's a lot of overlap. We can get to ESG or social responsible investing a little bit later on, where you're gonna see a lot of overlap. Again, a value-based investment. A lot of people invest in different assets, different stocks and everything, but they don't know what the company does actually, really in detail. So what we provide at Musaffa, that's why all the people, 87 million people, over 3,300 people already joined. And what they do, they link their portfolios, and we do. Imagine we X-ray their portfolios for them from value base. So, for example, if they invested like 25 stocks, maybe, and few people do a lot of stock like that, but let's say, and they can find out exactly what company does and what their financial activities are, what they're like, how they make the revenues. They can see everything in and out. I
Okay.
think that it gives them control over, okay, this is a company, does it really represent what I believe in? And I think like this is a new, not relatively new, but it's a movement. As you know, you've been heard about ESG or ethical investing or
Absolutely.
social
And having
investing,
transparency in where your dollars are going is critical. And most people don't have that access.
and people actually do really care, because some people, especially like Muslims, they do care like considerably, because why? Because let's say there is a company makes a lot of alcohol, right, and they make tons of money, and you cannot persuade any Muslim to invest in it. It's just the way it is, you know. And so it's incredibly important. That's why you see that volume is going up, and actually we planning to reach like $1 billion by this year. It's doable because there's a lot of assets out there. It's just they don't have a actually automatic screen. So the way it works, you just sign up Musaffa, and then you just link your account, and then that's it. You give permission, and we pull out all the data and analyze it for you. And this is one of the few tools, or you could say that, because you can literally screen like thousands of stocks. Right now we are at Musaffa, we are literally screening like 100,000 stocks, close to that, and we do have like about over 20 something analysts right now, about 22 analysts. So they do actually sit down and they analyze day and night. Even if you incorporate machine learning AI a little bit, but still like there's a lot of manual work behind it, right? So you have to go through every single company. Imagine going through 10K, 10Qs, pull out all the information, and then you have to go to the website. You have to check, make sure that, because not everything is on 10Q, right? The annual reports or quarter report. So there's a lot of work, but again, there is a lot of demand for it, because if you look at the platform that we have right now, we're approaching about 500,000 people on the platform. And what's interesting about it is like it's coming from like actually every single country in the world you can put a finger on. So it's like we have people, actually a database showing about 205 countries. We put 195 because again UN says 194, 95, so we put there. But actually we have more countries covered than the UN represents.
Nice.
So people are coming all around the world, because I think that shows you real need, right? I mean, otherwise, why would they come?
Sure. So, as the go-to platform for Sharia-compliant investment research, elaborate on some of the key factors that make organizations Sharia-compliant.
Yes, definitely. So there are several aspects what we look into. Number one is like we look at the business activities of the company. And there are specific rules and kind of strict rules. So for example, from Sharia perspective, which we follow, there's a AFA methodology. AFA stands for Accounting and Auditing of Islamic Financial Institutions.
Okay.
So there is an organization set up that way. And so what they do, they come up with methodology, how you can screen this one. And this is a world-class scholars get together, right? There's a board. And so they come up with the rules. So we follow the rules, one of the strict rules. Based on that, for example, like from business activity perspective, so you cannot invest any company if less than 95% of the revenue come from like unapproved sources. You could say that, or you could, on the other side, less than 5% of the revenue has to become can be not Sharia compliant. But there's a condition called purification we can get into a little bit later. For example, like let's say you invest in one example could be like IT company, right? Technology company.
Okay.
It's an amazing company. And you look at the core operations of the company. It's actually like, let's say it's producing some kind of like equipment for heart surgery. So it's good. The number one criteria has to benefit society, that business.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
it's good. But then let's say that it has some cash just sitting in there. And then what do they do with the cash, especially in modern world? They put in the bank,
Earning
and
interest.
it's the money market, so it earns interest. But as a Muslim or as a value-driven investor, you'll be like, well, interest is a big no. It's like unacceptable in Sharia compliance, right? Interest is a big one, because there is a reason behind it. We can get to that. But let's say in this case, like you really believe in the companies, that corporations are really well benefit society. But then you say, I can invest in the company, but I don't want to associate myself with the interest income. So there's a solution. So basically, you can invest in it as long as 5% or less revenue come from interest income. Then once you make the money, once let's say you buy, sell, you get dividend, you sell it, you get capital gains. Then you take that portion. Let's say 4% comes from interest income. You take that,
Okay.
you give the charity. You don't touch it. That's called purification process.
Full circle back to benefiting society.
Yes. And that one is actually, all those things are provided by Musaffa. So you come in, you just, you sign up, and then you just actually, we calculate everything for you, even your purification amount, everything.
Nice. Yeah, that's pretty handy. So let me ask you this. How did studying data science at Harvard prepare your skills in analyzing financial markets?
So this was like online class I took, several. I'm actually like, when I did my MBA from University of Illinois, it's also like direct business analytics and data science. And I did actually launch Data Science Academy. So I did teach data science for over a year to several people looking for switching jobs and everything. It's because I found it, again, fascinating, like combination of technology and the finance. Is just, it's an amazing fit, right? So I think it was instrumental, even like Musaffa right now, because we consider ourselves a data-driven company, and we have, imagine like 500,000 people almost coming to platform, and then we get thousands of feedback and we analyze it. and then based on that, we actually we come with the features or whatever, like products, right, that they request. So data science has a lot, and getting that data science certificate, of course, in the past, you get a lot of learning skills, right? You know how to run the linear regression, multilinear regression, all these things, and you do learn how to do business analytics, for example, right? And then you learn about the running, doing a lot of data science. So it definitely is helping tremendously while we're running the company right now, because again, and I think not all companies they're doing that. I think they should, because at the end of the day, it's not about what competitors doing. It's at the end of the day, what actually your customers truly want. And at the time, remember, data science solves like amazing problems. And it's true. For example, I was remembering like a while ago, I was looking at for example, Domino's, they were hiring a data scientist about
Okay.
120,000 salary at the time. And $120,000 at the time was good until about 4 or 5 years ago. When I looked up, I said, why do they need it? So they have a problem. They want to sell more pizzas. So how they can do that, right? So data science probably, so the job of a data scientist would be like, you give them a problem, they come with a solution. And most of the time, it's even better. They need to come up with the problem and solution themselves, like analyzing data. So you don't even know what your problem is unless you analyze the data. So once you analyze the data, you come up with the problem and say, okay, you know what? Now we can come with a solution, and then you come with a formula, and you can test it. So I think that's why it's incredibly important being a data driven, like especially these days, it has to be I don't see any other way around to analyzing like any company you run. It doesn't have to be finance for this, right? The data science is huge. So what I learned from that as well, and also like University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign, it was like basically learn data and get insight out of it, right? Because data is useless, unless you actually analyze it, right? It could be like, and then becomes information, and becomes you can become real insight, and then you can take action based on insight. So it's extremely helpful. I would just say that, because imagine like I was reading a book from Jeff Bezos. I think Bezos Letters. So he points out that, interestingly, that's what we are doing at Musaffa as well. He says at Amazon, they don't ever think about competitors. All that they say, he says, Jeff Bezos says, we are extremely obsessed with our customers. We want to know what they want and how we're going to serve them better. And then this is, I think that's extremely well approached, because this is what we're doing right now. I can tell you what percent of people want what kind of feature right now by running all this data analytics, right? So that's what drives the company, I think. So yeah.
That's really insightful. Dilshod, with your experience then, how do you see technology transforming the finance sector in the coming years?
I mean, it's already transforming. And now I know that this year has been a big, huge hype about AI. And I think
Sure.
it's gonna keep going, because again, what's AI? It is, if you look at the AI, and then before AI, it's like data science. Before that, it becomes business analytics, and it becomes statistics. So there's the layers. The basic statistics, right? You need to know amazing good about statistics. You need to understand how this all this, for example, normal distribution works and everything. This is very basic, and then you just build it. AI is built on top of that, so you could just AI. Statistics, business analytics. Now we're getting more into technology. We're getting data science. We're getting the coding. Now AI is like next. So I think going forward, what I see is like more and more uh, companies, they're gonna have to accept it to some extent. And it seemed like a hype. It is in a way, because remember like boom years. I think it was a dot crash back then in 2000, right? 99. There was a huge investment going into, but at the end, internet ended up being extremely useful. Not all companies made it, but I think that the AI driven companies, or companies who are actually building AI everything, as an investment perspective, it's gonna I see similar things transforming over years. So like few players gonna stay, and that's why you got all these like big players like Google. You can Amazon. They're spending tons of AI, because it is. I believe it's definitely the future. It's just uh, but I think it's also hype to some extent, from investment perspective, right? But I see it transforming finance. Coming, your question is like, it's just, I'll give you just an example, right? With all the technology and AI, imagine right now, for example, we are thinking about implementing, for example, like people come into platform, everybody's looking for different things. Some people, they want to learn more. Some people, they want to invest. Some people, they just need advice. So right now, actually, Musaffa, we're working on a plan where we want to integrate AI to actually find the best investment, I would say suitable investment for investors who come to the platform, and they can come and say. And then before, it was more about like giving like you take questionnaires like how restaurant are you? Oh, actually, you know what? I'm very restaurant, and they don't have any money in the bag, right? So that like if you take personal questionnaires, people can be very, very I would say subjective, but the AI can ask different kind of questions and come up with a different kind of like more accurate information to accurately actually categorize those people coming in. I think that's what we next thing that we're going to be working on.
So, with the skills required stacking on top of each other like they're accumulating, what advice would you give to young professionals looking to enter the finance and technology fields?
Skills, interestingly, that was again 4 or 5 years ago, because that's the last time I was actually out there, knew more about the market. And then of course I got into Musaffa like 4 years. We've been like, in completely like within laser focused about running the company. So I would say that I think not has, of course, 4 or 5 years a lot have changed, but I would say that even at that time, I remember like if you apply for a hedge fund, anywhere you get a job, financial analyst job, and they would not actually even talk to you if you don't know anything about programming. It's interesting because I was in about 4 years ago probably. Uh, I was a member of a CFA society in New York City, right?
Okay.
So I was active, and I'm still like a member. I just so when I went there, there was a hedge fund managers came in at the time. We were discussing, and we were giving questions, and they said the same thing. I don't need 10 analysts anymore. The analysts for me. I just need two who can actually write a Python code. so, so I think that even the analysts, I had several friends working in a big like hedge funds, but uh, they had to learn the coding. so so you have to be able to write a code, especially like Python and everything, right? And it's not that hard actually. I did learn myself as well, but it's extremely fun. Literally, you can do whatever you can do traditional Excel sheet. You can really do like 5 minutes what you can do in a whole day. So I think like people should, they don't have an option not to, because uh, of course you have this like older generation that they don't want to touch the technology and everything. They think, of course, there's a big part of it like relationship based on a high level, because you want to run a business, like you have to get the asset or like $1 billion asset under management. You have to build relation. I completely believe in that, because I think relationship is a foundation even in finance. But the for people trying to get into the industry, because not everybody can start with the top, like being hedge fund
Sure.
manager, right? You have to wake your up way up. So I would say that they have to learn technology. I mean, it's not an option anymore.
Speaking of working your way up, I think most of us have a few pivotal moments in our history that really defines where we wound up going. What pivotal steps really led you to where you are today? Share experience from your early days.
Well, as I said, like my first, it's all about drive, I think, and it's just something that it's not something you can learn. It's just something comes with you, I guess. It's very hard to explain that people when you have a drive. For example, like when I was in University of Tennessee in Knoxville, I actually, it's interesting. You might ask questions. Why did you get into University of Tennessee in Knoxville? I had more options. So I was reading a book. I was a big Warren Buffett fan. I'm still is. So I love about the value investing. That was like, I remember 2007 and 2008, I was actually like investing heavily as much as I could. I didn't have a lot of money, but because I was contrarian at the time, right? S&P 500 went all the way down 670, I believe, like it went back then. So, so I was reading books, and then I said, there's one of the books I read was Warren Buffett's advice to his office from University of Tennessee in Knoxville, exceptional students. I was like, okay, then I'm gonna meet Warren Buffett. So that was my goal.
Nice.
So I got
Mhm.
into University of Tennessee and in Knoxville, and and then when I got it, I was really into finance, and I was very top student. I was getting like, for example, one of the classes. Um, I still have an amazing relationship with my professor. So I was getting straight hundreds, and then I was also like, and I was trying to see like there is no student organization for investment related. There's a 30,000 plus students at the University of Tennessee. So I started approaching a lot of professors because they have to sponsor. And finally, with one of my friends, we got together, and one of the professors decided. Then we started University of Tennessee Investment Group. Right now, it became, I think, like if you Google it, you're gonna see they became a nonprofit in Tennessee, and they have like over 300 people like joined already to the organization. It became a big, but you can still see my photos as a co-founder. So I started that, and then from that I was like really, really. And then when it came to visit Warren Buffett, I was top on the list. So I got into Omaha. So we finally, it wasn't just myself with a bunch of students, but it was,
No kidding.
yeah. And then we got to talk to Warren Buffett. So we had lunch. So he invited everybody to lunch. It was like an amazing experience, right? All these things happening because I think it's a drive. It's just okay. You have some people might say, okay, he's just a guy. For me, he's like the best in finance. If you want to be a like singer, you want to be someone who best in like singer, right? So every as a profession for me, more than his net worth, it's about his financial mindset, right? Mind.
Yeah, people pay a lot of money to have that lunch to
Actually, yeah,
access that
I think
mind.
they paid
Yeah.
$3 million. So
Man,
it was amazing experience. Again, it was just by myself. I one-on-one lunch. It was a bunch of
sure.
students, right? But it was still like we got to talk to him, ask questions. So it was an amazing experience. Why am I coming to that? Again, all this thing, as you said, it's about the drive and believing. I think I'm actually I came to US about 23 years ago. This is truly the land of like dreams. We can actually accomplish. And I'm one of the few examples. I wasn't born in here, but I came here. But I worked really hard. But I think that this is an amazing country. I love it, and I think there's amazing opportunities here. It's just uh, people should not take for granted because amazing opportunities, right? So I really want to pinpoint that as well because I think it's very important, right? So again, drive, believing in actually something can happen. It's just and you just go all the way. That's why it happened. For example, like going to university and then I was working equity research analyst. I really learned a lot over there, and it helped me with. By the way, my equity portion of my CFA exam was the easiest for me because I really had experience. Like working equity research analyst, right? That has
Gotcha.
big, and then and the later on it's just uh you just I would say that keep the drive up, and I don't think you can do that without it because I see, for example, like I see when I was in university in Knoxville, I had friends and they failed finance exam and they switch majors. I was like, how can you do that? I still don't understand that. But a lot of some people just switch majors. It's like just on a whim, right? So I never understood that because for me it's like I love it, I want it. Is that I need to go get it. I'm that kind of mindset.
That drive has to keep pushing you forward. And I really love the confidence and basically setting out that I'm going to meet Warren Buffett and we're going to sit down for lunch and then making that happen. That that confidence is so crucial in entrepreneurship. Where did you find that confidence that ultimately led you to launching Musaffa? And as you mentioned, the drive, more importantly, how do you maintain that confidence during challenging times?
Well, there's another thing, and I'm still like, I would say I'm still, the right word I'm looking for is like astonished by the fact that what I can see, for example, what we launched the company, a lot of people, even in the same industry or in the same like field, they don't really see what I see. It's not just me. It's just, for example, you can make tons of examples out there, right? That somebody believed in something, for example, and a lot of people didn't believe and they made it. Why it happens? Because I think that when you believe in something, it's just the biggest thing like would be like you never take a no for answer. You know, even running the company, starting the company, there's going to be 100 different reasons to give up. It's
Sure.
not just, I'm not just saying it because of it might sound cliche because you hear it a lot, But it's true. It's so true that, even it sounds cliche, you have to say that, because I even have my personal friends. For example, like running this Musaffa right now for the 4 years, I literally live like all my life, and my family, my children around it. So it's all about prioritization, I think. And sometimes like it's very hard to balance with the family, with the children, with that. But
Absolutely.
you have to make it work. But I personally, I had friends, actually very very close friends. They said, "Oh, I don't have time," and the next thing I say that they always hang out with the children, like with the children. They go to park, and I. It doesn't mean I love my children, but I'm sacrificing my time right now so that they can get better education, better lifestyle later on. So it's just about giving up something. And they say they don't have time, but they're allocating all the time to their families, which is completely fine. But it's all about the prioritization, I think, because and then coming back to that, seeing something when not a lot of people see. For example, when I started the company, I waited somebody to start this for 10 years. Company like this, 10 years. Like when I started writing business plans to launch it, right? Talk about in 10 years, I'm still watching, and they're still not doing it. And there's like 2 billion people out there, especially for Muslims, right? There's a global platform.
Sure.
I see that 2, 3 companies doing it, but there's not even single $1 billion company. I was like, what's going on? There's like 2 billion people out there. They need something. Nobody's doing it. So I felt like at the end, I said, I have to do this because again, it's just right there sitting, and you have to do this. And once that we did that, I remember like when we started the company, I was reaching out through LinkedIn, through different sources. I was like, can you come and waitlist our website? We got nobody. Now we're getting thousands of people, right? They just come into platform and they just start even paying for the service and everything. But I think like once you take that leap of faith and you just do it and you don't take no for an answer, it's just people tend to follow if you're building the right product that they need, right? Or service. So it's just I think that again comes with the confidence, I think, right? Because you lose your confidence. And one more thing, we raised over $4 million by now, and we about and the beautiful thing about it, like it's not like we raised the money from VCs. This all is like all the people, 524 people invested. We launched equity crowdfunding, one of the first one in Islamic finance, and then people, interestingly, we just closed around almost $1 million. That came 502 investors came from 50 countries.
Man, that's fantastic.
50. Imagine like that means it's very scalable. Now we're about to launch another crowdfunding, equity crowdfunding, and the best part of it, all these people coming, they're our platform users. So instead of getting the money from the VCs, we decided, okay, you know what? We're a very community-driven company, and let's go talk to our community. And then they coming and supporting. We're about to launch by the end of the month a big round, and they're already waitlisting. So many people all around the world because they say, I love it. I want to be part of it, right? And this is also like it gives you extra confidence because people are actually backing you up and they trust
Yeah.
you. So that
And let the stakeholders who actually care be the ones to be involved and benefit and participate in the journey. That's fantastic.
yes.
So what role do you feel like that accessible capital platforms like that play in shaping an entrepreneurial journey?
Oh my God, that's a game changer. You talk about equity crowdfunding?
Yeah.
That's like game changer. Actually, I have a book here sitting. It's called Equity Crowdfunding. So what happened was this. It's very interesting, and I really it doesn't. It can be any business, by the way. It doesn't have to be like fintech, Islamic finance. It could be anything. So as long as you have somehow you can relate the product or service to community, I think it's a game changer. And it's actually, imagine like I like to give this example. A lot of people say, it was if you invested like $1,000 in Google back in 1999, you could have like $7 million by now. I was like, yeah, hypothetically, yeah, but then could you really invest $1,000? No, you could not. It
No,
was only
you're locked
accessible
out.
to accredited investors or VCs. So I believe Obama signed the Jobs Act back, and after that, like before he left office, before it wasn't even legal for regular people to join and support the companies they love. So it became legal. So now, of course, there's limitations how much they can invest per year. But the beautiful part of it's like before it was only VCs and accredited investors, right? Otherwise, you couldn't make it. Your family support is going to take you to maybe like not even to seed round, right? So and then it's a game changer, because I believe that now entrepreneurs, they have an option. They have an option. It doesn't mean you don't have to like go and get these funds from the community. You can mix and match, right? You can have a VCs in, but at least you have more options now. And
And the retail investor has options and access. It's a game changer for them as well.
yes, and then I think, I was actually reading some interesting article. Actually, I watched on YouTube that I even put on my LinkedIn. So it talked about the wealth gap in the United States. It got so bad. Top 1%, almost 40% of the wealth. Top 1%. Top low below 80%, like below, like the bottom 80%, and they own, I believe, like 7% of the wealth.
Yeah,
It's
those
like,
numbers are staggering.
especially it almost doubled after like COVID. Now billionaires become like double more, right? So so I think the crowdfunding in a small way, leveling the playing field. That's how I see it. I even made a post about it, because let the small guys also own a piece of the pie, a little bit of it, right? Give them
Absolutely.
a
I
chance.
love that.
I think it's a big movement, but companies, actually companies taking a lot of companies taking advantage of it. There's a platform we run about. It's called WeFunder. We did run it. We raised about $150,000 from 91 investors, and it gives them more confidence. Then we launch another one. Then we get more 411 investors. Now we are about to going after maybe about 2,000 investors.
You're just growing your network and growing your reach and compounding them on top of each other. That's perfect.
And I want to call it like snowball effect for.
Mhm.
I just came up with the analogy because it's small and hard when you start it, but then you gain more credibility. You start building a real product that they need, and then you start making revenue, and more people see it. They come in more and more places, so you get the social proof and everything. And I think that a lot of companies, they need to explore that. Interestingly, when I was looking for, because I was looking for investors so much, I was talking to a lot of people, like trying to get investors for the company. And one person like from New York told me, why don't you do equity crowdfunding? That was like 2 years ago. I was like, I've been in finance for 15, 20 years, but I really did not get into equity crowdfunding. I heard about it, but I didn't know how it worked. So I was like, what do you mean? It's like, you have a passion project. This is a passion project. People really care what you do. I think you have a whole community behind you. You can get it. I was like, well, let me do research. So I got a book.
Traditional finance doesn't know it's possible today. It's crazy.
Yeah, and then I read the book Equity Crowdfunding. It's an amazing book. It's sitting right there. It's a Loyola book, and it's amazing. And then once I read it, it's like, okay, we gotta do this. I really believe there's a community behind us. But now I see that people are all around the world. Imagine like raising like 502 investors coming from 50 countries. That's beautiful. I was like, I think any product, like as long as it serves the people, and companies are raising. I know that for a fact. I know a company, they raised recently, I think over $100 million they raised from crowdfunding.
You mentioned a 10-year process to get things going. If access to capital had been available when you started, how would your experiences have been different?
In my opinion, that's not the only solution, because even if I had access to capital at the time, again, experience counts for so much. Especially like equity research is experience, definitely, but what I learned from Wells Fargo is like amazing, because I learned how to actually being the person between finance and technology, and know the language for both. I think this is extremely important, and a lot of people actually they don't have that.
You need capital, access to education, and also a
Education and
path to follow.
experience, because I think that once you have experience, education, this is why I did my MBA, CFA. One of the reasons, again, I need to be credible. If tomorrow, imagine like I knew that from the get-go that if we start the company, I'm going to have to use other people's capital to
Mhm.
run the right, to raise funds. Then now the question about credibility comes in. So that's why I need to build my traction. So equity research to like one of the top banks, Wells Fargo, working there for almost 7.5 years. And then at the meantime, do MBA, do a CFA. All this credibility comes in one picture. And it's not just anybody can just, of course, you're going to hear like a couple people like who left school and then they start to build a multi-billion company. But these are outliers. If you take like statistically, if you look at the people who are actually building this net, actually one of the books I was reading, actually a lot of people become a multimillionaire after the age 45 to 50, statistically speaking, because it takes years experience, but you always have some people like 20 years old, they just start company, become multi-billion. But how many of them out there, you know?
Right. Most people don't have that path to follow or the example or to
Yeah,
even
but
know
there's
it's
always
possible.
exactly. But mine was more strategic decision as taking your time, but making it happen. I I consider myself to some extent uh balance of aggressive, but again conservative too, because I want to make sure. Like, let's give the CFA right example. So some people say, if you look at the online, they say, oh, you spend 300 hours per level and then you can pass. Then I said, well, why don't like double or triple my time, but guaranteed to pass? Spend 300 hours and chances like failing, then my 300 would go to waste. So then let me do double, triple my time, but guaranteed pass. You see, my approach is like, you want to do it, you have to give everything and make it happen versus like taking a chance. And I have friends who failed even level one CFA because they just don't put the time.
Gotcha.
So, it just, I think it's relatable. That's why I'm bringing it up.
You know, you're talking about it wasn't just the knowledge, but the time and dedication. What other tools or resources benefited you the most when you started, and how did those things contribute to your success?
I think one of the things I love is like, I love reading books. I think this has a lot to do with it. And I've seen so many of my friends, for example, one of my friends was suggesting, look, you read these books and you implement, you become a millionaire. He says, no, I don't have time. If I become a millionaire, then I'm going to read the books. I said, it doesn't work that way. It works the other way around. If you look at one of the questions they ask Warren Buffett is like, if you had a superpower, what would you do? What would you ask? And you know what he said? I would be a super fast reader. You see,
Gotcha.
yeah, it's actually, I read in the book, actually, he did comment that. So I think like reading books also I value so much because the way I see it is this. So if I read a book, uh, so somebody spent a lifetime probably to write that book. So I'm
Sure.
spending a week to observe it. So it's like I'm getting so much. His lifetime, we maybe spent like 20 years to write a book, but I'm learning it in 2 weeks. I'm getting that, or
Nice.
3 weeks. So that's like immense amount of wealth. But I see a lot of people, I'm saying majority of people, they don't like to read books, especially these days. They just want to go do TikTok, they
Yep.
go
Yep.
lightweight. But you have to, when you read the books, I still read the books. I love reading books. Right now, I'm actually reading one of the books. It's called Startup CEO. I'm almost done with it. So I'm learning so much from other people's experience who actually went through and made all the mistakes. So you don't have to repeat that. How to build a culture within the company, for example, right? That's called the Culture Code. That's a different book. So I think like, I encourage people to do that because once they do that, it opens up different doors. Because not everything you can Google, It's like a lot of people. I may also using ChatGPT, which is nice, but I think it's more than that. You have to really get into it. If you look at the successful people, like even like Bill Gates, and the first thing they wake up at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, and then they read a book every day. It's like it's amazing. Like these people should be inspiration to a lot of people. And I realize also something like when you're becoming more successful, a lot of people's gonna feel like, okay, it's like, okay, this guy's getting successful. You see that in all the media all the time, right? Somebody's getting richer and people don't like it. But at the same time, there's a lot of hard work involved, right? So you have to go through that process.
Were books your primary mentor? What guided you and influenced your success the most?
Interesting question. I would say yes, but now it's changing because now we start the company. Now people start noticing. I'm reaching out to like, actually, I have 2, 3 people. They build multi-billion-dollar companies. I'm talking to them right now, so I'm asking for help within the
Sure.
community. So one is in finance. One is in like right now they're building like biggest car car battery manufacturer or something. So now I'm getting real people. But until now, I didn't have an explicit mentor other than reading books, to be honest. It's
No,
just,
that makes that
yeah, because not
you got to
everybody
start.
gets like billionaire access in one day, right? It takes time. You have to show,
Absolutely.
and also those people, they have to believe in you so they can actually spend time mentoring you, right? If they don't believe in it, these people are very, very practical. I'm talking about the people who build multi-billion-dollar companies. Those people they value their time. So they're not gonna spend time unless they see something in you. But to do that, you need to get to there, in my opinion. Not everybody's gonna get automatically like mentor out there, right?
No, absolutely. So speaking of building out the community around yourself as you're going, How do you view the role of community in pooling together resources to achieve financial goals?
Oh man, that's a brilliant question. That's another thing I don't want to bring it up. I'm glad that you brought that up because uh, one of the best thing I did for myself or for my career, I don't know why I didn't bring it up, but was actually work on my communication skills. So I'm gonna tie it because it's very relevant. So when I started, like I remember, like coming to this country, I was very shy. I was very shy, but then I had this. I was ambitious. Okay, I want to accomplish all those things. But then I realized like I have to be not shy. I needed to be like, open minded. I need to be able to like uh, work on my public speaking skills. So when I was in the University of Tennessee in Knoxville, I said, okay, I have this ambition. I want to build a company. I want to do this, and then that's before even I started like becoming president of University of Tennessee Investment Group. So I was the co-founder and president. So before we launched that, I actually, you know what, I started taking communication class, honor communication classes at the
Okay.
University of Tennessee, and then I didn't have to take them to graduate. It was like extra, so it kind of prolonged my, like graduation date. But I was okay with it because skill set I was gaining, it was extremely important because again, communication. I forced myself to come in front of the classroom and talk. And then that's how the next thing that was University of Tennessee Investment Group, right? We launched, and we used to like invite people like alumni. They come in, they give speech and everything. So I think it go from there. Now I actually embrace it. I love talking to people, and I was like, I love to be on the spotlight. It's like not because I want to be popular or something, but I think it's a part of the process. And Warren Buffett even said that he's a Columbia graduate. He says he doesn't hold that degree that he has. He actually got a certificate from Dale Carnegie and for public speaking, and he says he values that more because it helped him to actually get in front of people. I think it's extremely important. Why am I bringing it from a little bit far? Because I think that's extremely important now. For example, like I reached out to people, hundreds of people on LinkedIn, and I just tell them, "Oh, you want to jump in a Zoom call?" And a lot of people, they're open minded. They say, okay, let's, and then you just build a relationship, and nobody's in the middle. Of course, and then you can have like people introducing people. That's the next level. But you just need to take it like, and my philosophy is like, I have nothing to lose, everything to gain. It's just mathematically just works that way. If I talk to people, like, let's say somebody's that is like, oh, actually, I'm building this one, or can we get together? The worst thing is the person is going to say no.
Sure.
What I got to lose? But if it says, okay,
Nice.
yes, I love it. It's a building relation. Right now, actually, I'm building. I have back-to-back meetings nonstop. They come from different states. Why? Because again, it just we go out to lunch, we get to know each other, build business relationship. So it just becomes very natural. But you just have to, as I said, just be yourself, and you got nothing to lose, everything to gain. That's the mentality that you should have, I think.
It's a fantastic perspective. Reflecting on your road to success with Musaffa, if you had to start over today with only your human capital and your social capital intact, but you face the same barrier in accessing capital, what would you do next to build a strong foundation for your next venture?
So if I got the question right, you mean if I go back time or just in the future?
If you went back in time knowing what you knew now, but facing the same challenges, what's your next immediate step?
I would just say a lot of people, especially everybody's in different business. For example, when we started the company, I wasted a lot of time trying to talk to VCs, and I promised almost a year, and I think I would have done it, knowing what I know now, because there's a lot more options. And I tell to a lot of entrepreneurs out there trying to, because everybody's trying to get the VC money, but these guys are either they think they know everything, which I don't believe they do, because again. I think that one was. I remember like 2 years ago, it was worst time in the VC world, in finance. But 2 3 years ago, like VCs completely dried up in US, so it was a very hard time. I think a lot of people faced the challenges. So I
Yes.
think, and the next thing, like, what I learned was, for example, if you talk accredited investors, like high net worth individuals, right? That's another, because they have money, they just need a place to invest. I think talking to them and finding a common ground also helps, because we raised about 4 million. 3 million came from accredited investors so far, and 1 million came from crowdfunding. Right? So we just tested out; it worked. Now we can scale up. But a lot of people, they back you up because you just need to talk to them and tell them, and they need to believe in the vision and mission. That's extremely important in anything you do, because a lot of people, it's not just about money. They have money, they want to invest in something they believe in, regardless what could be the case, right? That's why you have people like donating like a lot of money to different causes, because people at the end of the day, they're not machine, they're emotional beings, right? So they need to
Sure.
believe in something they invest in. And as an investor, you should be clearly communicate to them that actually you're working on a mission or vision or something to make a change in the world that they believe in. I think that's the integral part of it. Again, if I knew what I knew, education is the biggest thing. I would never compromise on that one, because, and the second thing, I would just say I would be more confident and look for more different alternative sources for investments as well. Just don't get stick to it that some VC, for example, like I read in the other book or article that Elon Musk, for example, right, and like he was a Tesla almost went bankrupt, right, because he needed investors, and I think he had some savings from PayPal. He invested, and now everybody wants Tesla, but where were the investors at the time when he needed money? I think that's like, I believe like a lot of people, they don't see what you believe in, but you have to keep it pushing. But it doesn't. But it's a dangerous part. It should not be like foolish idea or you just go blindly. You have to have really like strong conviction in what you do, and then it has to be backed with the statistical data. So, for example, in our market, in Musaffa, for example, we got 2 billion people up there, but none, almost nobody is providing this kind of service. It's like there's a true need. I talk to so many people, and they're like, "Yeah, I would love this. I'd love this." Now they come into platforms like, "Okay, why didn't anybody build it before?"
Right.
And if you look at
Conviction
it,
and access to high quality investment opportunity.
yes. Same thing with the Elon Musk start Tesla. The 40 years, like 20 years. I think like everybody talked about like it's nobody's gonna drive electric car, but somebody had to take the step and do it, right? So it wasn't a brand new idea, right? It was there, but nobody really did it big in a big level. So somebody has to come and do it happen, and then people start following. I don't know why people. I think like that. And when you build something, they're going to be just sitting around as like when, and
Sure.
then it start working and they're going to be like, okay, let me jump in. I think investors are like that too. VCs are like that too. And of course, and you should understand they have maybe hundreds of thousands of people approaching them. They don't have time to spend in every single company. But I think that in my opinion, the company has to prove itself before going to them, in my opinion. I know it sounds like contradiction, but if you have a different source, because you also want to retain the control of the company, right? That becomes another factor that a lot of companies, it might work out, they might collapse because of there could be a vision collapse, right? And you don't want that.
Sure. It is a contradiction, but that's the challenge that has to be overcome. And really that's the basis of the importance of democratizing access to capital and access to quality investment opportunities. Okay, so how do you, in your opinion, how can democratizing access to capital and high quality investment opportunities transform an individual's financial destiny then?
So that's interesting question. So you're saying that how democratizing this access to capital is gonna affect their financial beings?
Yeah, giving that investor that even the issuer, the entrepreneur that is essentially locked out of a VC, and at the beginning of COVID, when the VC money was completely just gone, exited from the market, getting that entrepreneur access to capital, but also getting the retail investor access to quality investment opportunity, like you mentioned, where they didn't have access to Google. How important are those to ultimately create and empower someone's financial journey?
I definitely think it's interesting, because if it doesn't mean like, let's say that there is always, I believe, like even individual investors, right? Let's say they have 100,000 net worth. I'm just saying,
Okay.
they don't have a lot of money, but a lot of people that go park and like, oh, I want to buy Apple shares, Google shares, because it's more like, it's like guaranteed. They're not go bankrupt, but it's not. But then I think like as a financial specialist, I can say that you need to allocate your like your funding. You have to diversify, right? And I think there's always a place for companies like us, or companies who are starting out. There's albeit small section of it. There should always be a like allocation to that, to diversify your investments, also return investments. That's why VCs do, right? They invest in 100 different companies, but 4 of them make it, they make all the money. So I think this is in a smaller scale, it has to be done. You know, Interesting question, because when I started learning more about equity crowdfunding and then preparing to talk to VCs and everything, I realized something, you know, and I even came up with the analogy. So this crowdfunding is changing a rule. I think going forward, it's gonna even like it will even like I think it will flourish, because more people know about it. There's alternative source of investment they can get, and they get into that. And actually,
Mhm.
the brokerage we're working and actually building business right now. They're actually building a business of fundraising for. For example, the company we're working with, right? It's a broker dealer. They actually what they do right now, they help you fundraising with the technology side of it, right? They have to do they have to check background check with investors, every single investor. They have to approve their government rules. So they do that for us, and they help companies raise funds. But what interesting, they're also doing it. They take a we actually, it's called regulation crowdfunding or regulation CF. You
Mhm.
can raise up to 5 million per year, and then you have come regulation A plus, still crowdfunding. You can raise up to 75 million a year. That gives you $80 million a year potentially you can raise from the public. And on top of that, this company that the broker dealer, they take you to IPO. Now you don't see VC in the middle.
Right.
So now there is an alternative way that you can actually, bypass VCs. So at the end of the day, a lot of people, even like um, some of my colleagues, and they say, "Oh, you have to get VC money, VC money." Yes, but what's the purpose of getting VC money? I think like a lot of entrepreneurs, they got into that concept that VC money, you have to get it to be successful. Of course, but then the it's a funding. That's it. It's a funding. It's a form of funding. That's why they should see it. So if you can have alternative source to funding, then you don't even need the VCs.
Right. It's the access to capital and the people building the company that make the difference. It's not the source of the
Exactly,
capital and the
exactly.
VC experience.
Of course, like you see amazing stories, we see coming, they boom, like they give a multi-billion-dollar company. I give credit to that. But you also hear the undercurrent of the story, like, oh, it went down because of the
Sure.
VCs. There's a clash in culture, or the
There's
clash
a
of
cost.
vision. It happens a lot. It's so risky, right? As the founder of the company, for example, myself, I even had already like people said that actually we want to buy out your company. I was like, okay, it was actually, we were raising funds. We were raising 500,000 at the time. It's like, I'm
Okay.
gonna give you there was a multimillionaire we talked to. He's like, oh, I love the project. I'm gonna give you, even if you raise 5 million, you don't need to look anybody else. But then you're gonna have to sell me the company when it's just this valuation. And then in less than a second, I said, no, thank you, because I believe we could actually buy your company soon, because the extent of it, I can see that it's not just the one localized, right? It's a completely global platform, right? And you can see that diversity of the people coming from. So that also you get to the point. I think so that source, again, it's all about the source, and then your vision, what you need to believe in as the founder, right? If you look at a lot of companies, like you could have Google, for example, the founders, they still have the control and everything, but they tend to flourish because, again, who's the better person than the person who started it, who's trying to build it? Same thing happened to Apple, for example, Steve Jobs, right? They kick him out of the Apple, and then they have to bring him back, right? So, and most of the cases, I would say so. And again, it's nothing against VCs, because we want to get VC money as well, but then it has to be somewhere in the middle. It cannot be just on their terms only, right?
Nice.
But we should, I think the entrepreneur should see it as a way of, um, is two things you need. Like when you need capital, you need a strategic partner. So I even talked to one of my mentors, right, telling me like, okay, money you can get everywhere, but you need to get a strategic partner. So you need to be able to place, you can choose VCs. And that's what we're working towards, by the way. So instead of getting any money we can raise from anybody and give up control or anything, we need to find a strategic match. I
That
think,
really resonates with me. Capital itself is truly a commodity and nothing more.
and for example,
Dilshod,
funding, we can raise the capital, but it doesn't come with the strategic, it doesn't come with the strategic, like, right, part of it. Yeah.
Dilshod, I like to end our episodes with a fun anecdote about my guests. Can you share a story, fact, or experience about yourself that our listeners would find entertaining?
Well, interesting. You mean like outside of that?
Yeah.
I don't know, because I've been like so much working lately, so it's kind of hard to come up with an interesting story other than the company we're running, right? So that's an interesting question. So I would say that again, I showed my love for US. I was saying before, because it's not just a saying, it's just because I think like a lot of people has a lot of appreciation. I also want to tell the people here, at the end of US is like, if you look at the history, it's a land of immigrants.
Sure.
It's true. It's true. And they were now there's a lot of like, I think I just following a little bit of politics just on the side. It just there's a lot of conversation going on, but I think like I just want to say that as somebody who came to this country, is like there is tremendous love for the country, because it's giving you opportunity where a lot of people cannot get like their own countries. So I think it's a personal story, but again, you might have heard it from a lot of people, but it's true. And a lot of people come here, and then most of the people, they want the best for the world, and they just want to have a better life. I think I'm one of those people who come in here. For example, right now, and they're saying, "Oh, there's immigrants coming," but right now we're actually hiring a lot of people, Americans, right? So it's good. It's good for everybody. I think I don't. It's not. I'm trying to get politics. It's just a little bit emotional part of is that as well. It's just coming to this country, almost start with the nothing, right? And then reaching out and learning all the skill set in the world. I'm extremely grateful, right? So now it's just, I feel like it's just the time to give back to community, right? So
I love that so much. I'm like most everyone else. My ancestors came here in 1619, and they really came here for access to opportunity, and that resonates with me
wow,
so
yeah.
much. And you just said how grateful you were, and gratitude is so powerful. I was going to ask, what are you most thankful for from your unique journey? And I feel like I have an idea of how you'd answer.
Yeah, yeah. Again, you know what? I think like a lot of people, they think like, oh no, no. People come here fine. I'm telling you, like from bottom of my heart, it's just people are grateful, and a lot of people, they follow the rules to the letter. Just, and I think it's important to everybody understand that actually. I don't know. It's just I didn't know what else to think, but other than this, showing my gratefulness, right? So I think it's important that it's like because it's also personal, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, you come in here. I didn't know anybody. Like very few people. I have friends now. Now we have a growing community, right? And I think it's just it's amazing, And it's hard to explain. You have to live through it.
Well said.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Dilshad, it's been an honor. I appreciate the time today. Thank you very much for the chat and the information, and getting to hear your story, and I appreciate you sharing with our listeners. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. It was my pleasure. It was a really like I would say that it was a very, very fruitful conversation.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this episode of Planet Wealth Fortunes of the Brave, check out our other videos for more insights and strategies to elevate your financial freedom. You can subscribe right here and hit that notification bell so you never miss an update. Join our community and take your financial future to the next level. I'll see you in the next video.